Hello, Title Tribe. How are we doing today? We are back with another Dynasty rookie mock. Myself and Mike here with me. We are incorporating landing spots in this one. I went through a 7-round mock draft and put all the landing spots into a sheet, and threw them in the draft chat. For people who are in the draft, if you want to look at that, base your picks off that. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, especially now that we're throwing landing spots involved in this as well. I wonder if that will change any picks. Like, I wonder if we look at last week's compared to this week's, will the landing spots make a difference? Now that we also have free agency that played a huge role in a lot of this. Do you want me to start this up now, or?
Yeah, if you want to, I don't even have the mock.
Let me send a message in here that we are about to begin, so everybody can kind of have an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
1 second. So what I was going to say is, I don't know if this means anything to you, but the amount of running back signings, paydays, trades, stuff like that makes me believe that the NFL kind of believes what we believe, is that this running back class is not as strong as previous years. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it at least tells us that they probably don't see more than like one or two like actual
Relevant guys.
workload. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Running backs that can like be a lead back. Because they'll still, even with the signings, like they'll have to fill out the rest of their running back room, and they'll do that in the draft. But yeah, there probably aren't. They probably don't see too many bell cow guys.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I've been taking it, especially with the lack of wide receiver moves, besides, like, I guess that Calvin Ridley one that happened today. But all right, so let's get this started up. Wicked is going to have the first overall pick. Lucky him. He was the last person to join, first person to pick. I don't know how the hell that worked. But here we are.
I got the fourth pick.
Jerry says, hi, all. Jerry, how you doing?
So this is tight end premium?
Yes.
Okay. I've never done a tight end premium.
No? I'm a big fan of the premium just because it gives the tight ends an extra boost. Because, I mean, I might start to fade it a little bit now that tight ends are starting to become a more prevalent fantasy option than they've been in the past. But I think for pretty much every year before this past year, it's been worthwhile. I'll let you take your pick here. So the first three picks, kind of chalk. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. I'll have to double check your landing spots.
Oh, sure, yeah. It seems like Neighbors at the 103 is starting to be a little more popular.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe people are starting to really think about like the Commanders and Patriots as the two landing spots and not liking that for Daniels and May.
So you have Malik Neighbors to the Giants. Okay. I like that. So Bears, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cardinals, and then Giants taking Neighbors.
Yeah. And I actually think I'm going to go maybe a little bit of a surprise here, but I'm going to go Bowers.
No, I mean, especially since we said tight end premium and going to the Colts, I really like that. Shane Steichen is somebody that I'm very familiar with here in Philadelphia. And the year he had with the Eagles tight ends with Dallas Goedert was a decent year. So I could see him bringing in a premium tight end. So that's a good pick. I believe that's probably where he should go in these kind of drafts.
Yeah. I think Steichen strikes me just because, I mean, I think he's probably my favorite like offensive mind in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it will be good about getting the ball just to his best players as opposed to having this rigid scheme that like enforcing his play, like the talent that they have into his scheme. So I feel like if they do draft a tight end in the first round, like they're going to do everything they can to get him the ball.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands and not overthink things like he kind of did in the game to get into the playoffs where he had Jonathan Taylor off the field. But I digress. I think I'm going to go a little probably off the realm of like what's been normally happening at the pick 5 here. I'm going to take Drake May as my quarterback 2 going in the New England Patriots that in your mock here. I don't love the landing spot, but I mean, I guess things could be different with Jared Mayo as a new head coach. Jaden Daniels follows right after that. He had the Commanders, Commanders landing spot, so that's good. I just prefer Drake May. When I watch him, he looks like a mix of Carson Wentz and Justin Herbert to me, which is just a fun ride.
Yeah,
to be honest. But all right, what do we got here?
yeah.
It's because I'm the best.
I'm working on a Drake May article right now, and as I've been writing it, it's meant to like not be like a super negative thing or anything, but I want to highlight like his flaws and what I feel, some of the things that I feel like I don't see get mentioned as much when talking about him. But as I've been writing it and like going back and rewatching film and stuff, I'm finding myself get a little bit higher on him, and at least closer to what maybe how other people see him.
So, like I said, like you said, he has a lot of negatives, and that's like the Carson Wentz portion of him that I see. The turnover worthy plays, the trying to play hero ball a little bit too much, putting the ball in a little bit of danger. I see that. I definitely see the negatives, but he's got some major arm talent too, though.
Definitely. And he shows flashes of like the main thing that I feel like I look at with quarterbacks is like not just making the throws, obviously, but like I want to see like them putting everything together, kind of, if that makes so like I want to see like good pocket movement into a resetting their feet and then making a throw, and like doing things thinking multiple steps ahead. Right. And when you can see that translating, and you see a lot of flashes of that kind of thing with May, where I feel like I'm seeing them more now than I was when I first watched them. I don't know, I was missing things or something. But it's just, there are also a lot of bad flashes.
No, I definitely agree with it. I also think a lot of that has to do with the skill positions, or the skill position players that he had. I know you're not super high on Tez Walker, but that was his wide receiver 1. Nesbitt was the tight end, who I actually think is pretty good, but that's about it. Real quick, let's just catch up on here. Rome Odunze went at the 1-7. Going to the Jets was, I think, is an underrated spot. Troy Franklin, you had going to.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Troy Franklin is the 10th receiver taken in the mock to the Colts.
Which I kind of like that spot. But
having them go Bowers and Franklin as their first 2 picks, I don't know how realistic that is, but that I kind of like having some things that in the mock where people might look at them and be like, I don't know, like that's probably not going to happen, because there are always a handful of those every year where you're like, why would, like when the Seahawks took Charbonnet, like that made no sense.
When the Seahawks took JSN.
Well, yeah. But yes, Franklin being the 10th receiver off the board, but the 4th receiver here is surprising.
Then Brian Thomas at the 1-9, who he went to
the
Cowboys, which I could see that. That's a good one.
Great spot, I think.
And then that dude Daniels took JJ McCarthy, and then he put in the chat JJ to JJ. And I actually, I'm not the biggest JJ fan, but if he goes to the Vikings, I think that could be a really good landing spot. So that's a great pick there.
That is a good spot, as long as they don't try and start him year 1.
Yeah, probably not really ready right away. I like the Keon Coleman pick next at 111 to the Saints. And then Xavier Worthy.
I will say
the Bills.
If Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell go to the Chiefs and Bills, I don't think there's any way either of them are getting out of the first round of rookie.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Guys like Franklin.
Now it's kind of pick your poison at that point too, on who you'd rather take out of those 2. For me, it's Worthy pretty easily. I would really love that spot in Buffalo too.
So at this spot, it's interesting with the quarterback. So Nix goes in the 2nd round to the Raiders.
Do you want me to pause this for you real quick, or are you good?
No, it's okay.
I'm
just about to make it. And a lot of the receivers have come off the board really quickly with the quarterbacks kind of falling. I think even with second round capital, I would go Bo Nix here.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll find himself probably in a similar spot that Levis found himself in last year, where even though he's a second round pick, he'll probably play year one, whether it's at the very beginning of the season or not. And
Oh man,
his value will be higher like now than it was at the time.
so you put me in a really tough spot here because I don't know if I want to take him here because I feel like it's too early, but that is probably the best landing spot I've seen for him. Except I'm doing an article right now for Toilets and Titles where I have him going somewhere similar.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to hurt me. And I think this is going to be a very surprising pick to a lot of people. I am going to go Devontae Walker going to the Detroit Lions. I think he could step in there and take the Jameson Williams spot pretty easily.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And getting him in the third round, I think that's extremely good value. I think he could end up being a back-end second because of the way he did perform at the Combine. I know the Senior Bowl wasn't too pretty for him, but he had a good Combine, so it could have nice bounce back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping people kind of forget about the Senior Bowl a little bit after the solid Combine and like he starts to move back up boards. If he goes I think that's probably like where I see him going in the real draft, like to the third round. A team like the Lions who have like plenty of other skill position options. But that is a good spot for him. I agree.
Yeah, it's just like I didn't know if I wanted to pass him up in the second round. Like I feel like that's a little high, but just that spot, I think, and I do like Devontae Walker. He brings a different dimension that the Lions haven't had because Jameson can't stay on the field. So I like that spot.
Yeah, I agree. So
go ahead.
Penix falls to the third round in the mock to the Broncos, which is still a good spot, just late. I feel if he goes in the third round of the actual draft, which I don't think will happen, but if he does, I don't see him going this high most of the time. And I probably wouldn't want to take him that high because third round is where you start to get into like we're
question areas.
Backup. Yeah.
I could see him sneaking into the second round, Penix, because of the amount of quarterback needy teams we currently have in the NFL. If he goes there, though, my Marvin Mims stock are going to hit Tesla levels, and I'm going to be so happy about that. There was a lot of discourse about Marvin Mims on Twitter. I don't know if you've been seeing that lately, but I am a big Marvin Mims guy. So what do you think on him real quick?
I liked him like as a prospect, but I was pretty underwhelmed with his rookie year, not just like the usage and like all that. I did hear I was listening to a Matt Harmon Reception Perception podcast, and he was saying that he's charted him from last year and that he was basically like unplayable as a starting receiver. Like he just was not ready. Huge run of running backs. But.
Yeah, I know. We're getting a little hot and heavy with the running backs.
Yeah. So that's my thing with Marvin Mims. I would probably be on the side of like sell if his stock is up now. I would want to get out and re-roll next year, especially with this incoming receiver class.
No, I don't disagree. But the thing is like I don't think you're getting like people. I think are thinking that you're going to get like an early first or an early second for him, and I don't think that's like realistic. Yeah. I think you're closer to a late second, and to me, what's that?
I don't even know who's getting that. If I would sell him for any second. If you're getting offered like thirds, I'd probably just hang on to him if you were particularly high on him.
And to be honest, I would hold him for a late second. Like I know, there goes my guy Malachi Corley. That's a good pick in the third round.
He goes to the Bears in the third round in the mock.
That's a good spot. I knew Wiz was going to take Ray Davis.
So I think we're finding that with the mock, there were 6 running backs that went on day 2 in the mock, and so now once people see that, these running backs are going higher than they were when we did this the first couple times.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We were not seeing most of the running backs going until I think like the end second, early third, I think, in most of them that we've done.
Yeah.
Well, we've only done 2, so it's not like we've done an abundance of these.
Yeah, that's
But I'll let you take your pick here.
Won't take long. This is a no-brainer for me. You got my guy going not only to my team, but also the wide receiver factory. Come on.
True.
In the third round with
the Steelers.
Replace Deontay Johnson. I love it.
So like I said earlier, I'm doing that basically Dynasty matchmaker where I'm putting wide receivers in different spots. So actually I put Pearsall at the which I don't know if you'd love, the Panthers. So, but I much prefer the Steelers landing spot for him for you in this case.
I would too.
I really think Bryce Young needs a guy like Ricky Pearsall, though, to be honest with you. Since you took your guy, I think I'm going to take my guy, who I think could come in and be the number 3 on that team, eventually take over the number 2 spot when Mike Evans leaves or Godwin leaves, whoever leaves first. I'm going to take Javon Baker going to the Bucs in the 3rd round.
Okay.
I like that. I like, Baker, Baker will heave the ball, man. And that's the kind of receiver you want to go do that.
Yeah, definitely.
As a Bills fan, give me all the word. What's that?
I think that might not be looked at as a good spot, like when by the fantasy community, if he were to go there. But I do think it would be when he wouldn't have to step in right away and play, and he could learn behind Evans and Godwin, 2 great receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I like that spot for him.
Yeah, and I also like it because Xavier will get finally going, it looks like, right? Yeah, so Xavier will get finally going.
Yeah, at pick 43 going, like in the mock, getting somebody anytime somebody goes that early, getting them at the 306 is a steal.
I've actually, so real quick, last thing on the Bucs, I've kind of, before Mike Evans signed, I was going out and trying to acquire Trey Palmer, and I kind of like Trey Palmer as their vertical threat. I think he's just a nice piece to hold just in case, So we'll see what happens. Now that's a pick. Xavier Legette, now that's a pick. Yeah, it really is, especially him going in. I think you had a 2nd round, right?
Yeah, 43 overall.
Mm-hmm. To the Falcons, right?
Yeah,
that's a great
kind of an interesting spot with London and Pitts and now Mooney. He might find himself as he would find himself probably as like the 5th option right away, with and counting Bijan as well.
Yeah, true. I didn't even think of it that way. But I mean, eventually if they're going to spend a 2nd round capital on him, you're going to see him more than I would imagine Mooney, right?
Maybe, although they're paying him a decent amount
chunk
of money.
Of change. True.
So Spencer Rattler goes in the 3rd, 309. Where did he get mocked? He gets mocked in the 4th round to the Seahawks. I think at that point,
that's
in the late 3rd round, that's probably a good time to take a shot on a Spencer Rattler.
Spencer, yeah. Do you think there's a realm of possibility where the what the hell's their name? The Seahawks go up and move to grab a quarterback?
Probably not, unless it were like I could maybe see them jumping to like 10 or 11 to get in front of it. There's like a run of teams who like kind of half need a quarterback, like the Broncos, Raiders, Vikings, like all those teams. I could see them maybe jumping up to there to get like a McCarthy. I don't see them jumping like all the way up.
I agree with that.
But even still, I probably think they would wait until day 2 and like if they want like a Knicks or a Penix or something.
Yeah, so I like Penix there, to be honest with you. I like that. I like that spot for him. I like the Rattler spot that you have now for the Seahawks. So I do think they are. You're probably right. It's going to be a late day 2 pick, or maybe even early day 2 pick for them when it comes to a quarterback draft pick. Audric Estime finally goes. Man, what a fall he's had. Where did you have him going?
I believe he fell to day 3, I think.
To the Bengals. That's actually a good spot, though. I like that. That's good.
3.
That's a good pick right there.
That is a good 310. Jerry in the chat says not a Geno guy. Could see Spencer challenge him. I
mean, yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm also a West Virginia fan, so
yeah, I get that. But
so
after he said they wrote me off and I didn't write back, and then he started sliding, I was like, oh, buddy, you
I love
probably
it.
should have kept that one in the chamber. All right, Wicked's back on the board. We will break this down a little bit more once this is over because there's just so much happening. Jerry Rice Jr., aka Brendan Rice, going at the 4-1. I think that's a good spot.
Yep, that makes sense. Where did he go in the draft?
That's what I'm trying to find.
He goes in the 4th round of the Chargers.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like he's pretty similar to Brandon. I don't know why I said that. To Josh Palmer.
Okay. Yeah.
He's kind of like a physical possession receiver that doesn't have like the best speed, and I don't know that I feel like it'd be tough to see Brendan Rice breaking through in that receiver room, but in the 4th round, I mean, you're just throwing.
It's a dart throw.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just from the chat, who is Johnny Wilson? Have him at wide receiver 12, but I can't even find him in this app. Well, he is probably one of the more interesting receivers that I've ever watched. He's 6'7" from Florida State. He was next to Keon Coleman. He should be on Sleeper somewhere.
Yeah, he absolutely should. Where'd he go? I know he was there.
Joe Milton did get drafted. He went in the 5th round of the Saints.
Did they take him off? Because he was on here.
Johnny Wilson?
Yeah, he's not on here anymore.
What are the odds they moved him over to tight end?
He's not. I looked. That was actually the first place I looked. Do you think it's possible they could be moving him to tight end? That's why they took him off.
Yeah, he was drafted at the 312.
Oh, all right. So Genesis is playing a little trick on us and making us look stupid, making us look a little silly on live here.
Yes. Jaheim Bell, the 4th.
I like that in a tight end premium.
Your boy Bucky falling all the way to the 4th.
Yeah, Wiz did that to spite me. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Dude, getting him there. And where did you have him going? I didn't get a chance to look.
Bucky?
Yeah.
He goes to the Ravens.
Yeah. Dude, that's a great spot.
Although Keaton Mitchell, a lot of people really like him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Henry's not going to be there for long, so that's a good spot.
That's a really good spot. I like that, and I now realize maybe he didn't just do that to spite me. Wiz is a Ravens fan, so that could be part of it as well. I'm trying to think of what I want to do here.
I can't. Most of the running backs are flying off the board. No day 2 running backs left. I might.
No, they're gone.
Where's my guy? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that landing spot, too.
What do you got?
I'm going to go. Well, I love that landing spot. It's probably a stretch, but I'm going to go Jermaine Burton.
Where'd you have him going?
He goes to the Giants in the 4th round. Obviously, not a great quarterback situation. But him going with Malik Neighbors also goes to the Giants in this. So it'd be the two of them joining a very lackluster receiver room. And I mean, Neighbors would obviously be the wide receiver 1 right away. And I think Burton could easily compete with Hyatt and Wandale for the second target spot.
So I'm going to go with a guy I haven't gone with in any of these drafts. So I actually like slightly, and I like his landing spot. I got to do some more digging on him. I only did like a kind of like peek right now, but I think I'm going to take him. Yeah, I'm going to take him here. Jacob Cowing going to the Tennessee Titans. I like that spot. That's in the 4th round.
They need a slot receiver fairly bad.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect spot for him. A very, twitchy slot. I think he could step right in because Lord knows they need another pass catcher.
Grant in the chat says, he's talking about the Ravens. He's a Ravens fan as well. We'll need a new Justice Hill eventually. I like Bucky to fill that role. That is a good kind of that just like satellite back type of thing. he could definitely. I mean, he caught 1 million passes at Oregon.
Yeah, I think it was 56, if I'm not mistaken. And to be honest, I think he's a little bit better than a satellite back, but
but when you talking about a guy drafted in the 4th round, like
true.
I think talent-wise, I agree that he's better than that, but realistically, with what his role would probably end up being, at least right away.
I like that Dylan Lobby pick. Between Jacob Counting and Lobby, and then another running back were my 3 choices.
I honestly forgot about Benson. If Burton wasn't there, I probably would have taken him. He goes to the Chiefs in the mock, which is just perfect.
That is the opposed or the supposed heir apparent to Travis Kelce. I had Eagles on the mind there. If that's what happens, and he's a good tight end. I would probably have taken him there too. I actually might have taken him earlier, but I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, it's tough to go to do this way where all the landing spots, but you don't have them actually internalized, or you're not. It's hard. You have 2 minutes to flip between the 2 screens and stuff.
Yeah, especially me who can't focus on one or can't focus on multiple things. So I'm switching back and forth. So when you're reading the chat over here, I thank you for that, because I have trouble keeping up. I keep trying, and then let's see who Jerry takes here. I think I do have a favorite draft team here so far. There's a couple really good ones. I think I have a favorite already, but we'll talk about that when we break it down.
Until at the 8 spot, just those 4 receivers. That's what all my rookie drafts are going to look like.
Oh, really?
Just spamming receivers.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong because the amount of depth at the wide receiver position, and I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is that we were talking about it earlier in the Gilded Chat. Make sure you look into trying to get into the Toilets Tight. Gilded Chat's always popping off. Always a lot of football discussion, dynasty discussion, everything going on. I think some wide receivers we expect to go in the 1st round might get pushed to the 2nd, just because the amount of depth. I think teams like Buffalo are going to look at the amount of wide receiver talent that there is and maybe take a defensive player, because they just made a lot of cuts on that defensive side of the ball that they could, realistically take an edge rusher or a corner in the 1st round.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, I think. The one thing I will say is that, so edge rusher, yeah, that's a pretty shallow class, but I feel like a lot of the other premium positions.
Frank Gore Jr. going last, that makes sense.
A lot of the other premium positions are also really deep, like tackle, corner, even quarterback to a certain extent, are all those are probably the strengths of the class outside of receiver. So, and those are the other premium positions that guys want to draft early. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw a lot of receivers go in the 1st round, but I'm thinking more 5, 6, not 7 or 8.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to think too. I've seen a lot of people say that there was going to be 7, 8 wide receivers going in the 1st. I don't think that happens. I think that's a little foolhardy. I think there's too much talent to kind of pick so highly. You know what I mean? Pick so many in one spot or in one area that. I don't know. And the corner class is good too. You have Cooper DeJean, Quinyon. How do you say it? Quinyon Mitchell?
Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell, Nate Wiggins. There's a lot of talent in the corner too.
Both the Bama corners. Yeah.
Both the Bama corners.
A lot of really good corners.
What's the one? Tyron Arnold, right?
Tyron Arnold, and then Kool-Aid McKinstry is the other one.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for Arnold. I liked his post combine interview where he just shouted out his mom for 2 good minutes. And I think that's awesome. That's somebody I would like to root for, so I like that. But let's break this down a little bit. What is a team that jumps out to you when you're looking at this?
I mean, the Wicked and the 101, that's a great
don't give him credit. No, do not give him credit.
Getting AD Mitchell, who goes to the Chiefs or the Bills? The Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2nd round, can't go wrong there. And he took your boy Corley in the 3rd.
Yeah, that one hurt a little bit.
That was just the first one I looked at, but I do like that. I mean, like the straight receiver draft I like. But Roman Wilson at the 308, I'm like definitely lower on him than most people are.
Mhm.
But at the 308, that's a steal. He goes in the second round of the mock to the Eagles, which isn't a great spot, but I still think that's it.
No, I do see them taking a wide receiver though.
Yeah.
Maybe in the second, third round. But I will tell you one that jumps out to me a lot is C. Will 1 in the 3 spot. Neighbors going to the Giants. Doesn't seem like the prettiest spot in general. But let's be honest. They really need somebody. They need an explosive playmaker. And that dude is the most explosive wide receiver, at least in the top, 10 of them. Lad McConkey at the 2-3. Where'd you have him going again? To the Panthers. I think that's a decent spot. He's a very reliable target. Knows how to get open for Bryce Young.
If they draft a guy high, that'll be a crowded
wide receiver room.
Not a very good room, but a very crowded room. We'll have Deontay Johnson, who I like a lot. I'm again a Steelers fan. Thielen, still Mingo will be there.
I don't think much of him.
His days are done as a dynasty asset.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lad McConkey.
And I love that Marshawn Lloyd pick at the 3-3 going to the Raiders in your mock. I think that's a great spot. I think he would. I mean, a lot of people are hyping up Zamir White right now, but I'm going to be honest. I would take Marshawn Lloyd over Zamir White in a heartbeat. That's how highly I think of Marshawn Lloyd. I think he could be a great replacement for Josh Jacobs. It's going to matter on ball security for him.
Yes, that is definitely a big thing with him. I have Zamir White in a couple of leagues, and I'm going to be holding my breath during the draft. Hope the Raiders wait as long as possible to take a guy.
Is that somebody you're trying to actively move as well?
If people are like really reacting heavily to them not signing anyone and letting Jacobs go, then yeah. Like if somebody wants to give me like a second round pick this year, I'll take that all day. But I'd probably say he's a hold. I liked his college tape a lot. Was very disappointed at him just not getting used at all as a rookie. But then this year he got those games at the end and he looked really good.
I'm actually looking at one more here that I kind of like. So the 12th spot, 0 Fox, 2 given or 2 give. So I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but I kept it PG because it's spelled not that way. So Xavier Worthy at the 112 going to the Bills is a great pick. Trey Benson, who absolutely smashed the combine, jumping up into the 1-2 spot in a lot of running back rankings. I think that's a great pick. And where did you have him go? I looked at it now. I forget already.
I think he was the first running back off the board to the Giants. I mean, yeah, it's a good spot in terms of he would be the starter, but
that's exactly
I don't know who's blocking for him. But.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great spot. I get Johnny Wilson isn't the best, but whether they keep him at wide receiver or they move him to tight end, the dude's athletic as hell. And they drafted Drake May. They have a quarterback now. Maybe Johnny Wilson could be something. So I kind of like the 12 spot too as well.
Yeah, that Johnny Wilson spot, him going in the third, what was it?
3.
The early third round and the 12th receiver off the board. It kind of entered the Patriots. It kind of reminds me of Michael Wilson last year. When he went in the third round to the Cardinals when nobody was really mocking him going on day 2. And he was a guy I liked a lot. And he fell even as a third round pick. He was going late third and the 4th round. And I know he didn't have a great year or anything, but it reminds me of that. And I think that was a value, and I think this would be too.
I'm actually looking at it again as well. I think Ray Davis to the Vikings and him going in the early 3rd is a good spot as well for him.
They signed Aaron Jones.
I mean, they're both pretty old. Ray Davis and Aaron Jones.
They're like the same age.
Almost. I mean, what's his name? Ray Davis will be 25 during the season. I think Aaron Jones is going to be really good in Minnesota. I like that spot for him. But I think Ray Davis could come in there and be their goal line back, be their short yardage guy. Can pass catch a little bit as well. So I don't hate that spot. I know they just got Aaron Jones, but they're completely two different players. And I think he's probably a bit better than Ty Chandler too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think very highly of Ty Chandler. I think anybody who sold him pre-free agency was very smart because they were always going to sign someone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't think they really view him as like a legitimate like starter. Or he's probably just like a rotational guy. Jerry in the chat says Braylon Allen for the Cowboys would be a sleeper. Would be a great landing spot. He goes
it really would. That's one I kind of glossed over too. Where do you go?
Braylon Allen's a really interesting prospect. I've heard a lot of film guys not speak highly of him, say they really don't like his film. The data people are very high on him because of that crazy, as a 17-year-old putting up like 1,500 yards or whatever.
In college football. Yeah,
it's crazy. Granted, he was still the biggest, strongest guy on the field, but
I'm not the biggest Braylon Allen guy either, to be honest with you. A little bit of ball security issues with him as well. Not like if I look at him and Audric Estime at the same time, and they're like essentially built the same, and one's running a lot harder than the other, I'm going to take the one that runs harder, and that's Estime.
Yeah. Although I don't know if I'd say they're built the same. Braylon Allen's like 6'3", 245.
Well, was he 245? I thought he was listed at 220. Did he?
Oh, I'd be shocked if he was. Did he go to the combine?
Yeah, he did, but he didn't run. Let me look that up.
He weighed in though, right? He was listed at 245 in college. He weighed in at 235. Okay, and he was also listed at 6'2" in college. He came in at 6'1".
So he's a little smaller. And Estime was 220, I think, right?
235. I don't know.
What was Estime? 220? 220? 220? Let's look that up.
5'11", 220.
So it's not a huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, 15 pounds is, I guess, a sizable difference, but
I guess Braylon Allen just looks so much taller because he runs higher up.
High. Yeah. Yeah, true. He's also like a really big gym rat too, so he looks stronger. But I feel like Estime just looks more of the bowling ball type that I want Braylon Allen to be. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just harder when you're 6'1" and it is 5'11". I mean, that's 2 inches, but
yeah, no, definitely. I do. The one thing I will say is he's gonna, his entire rookie year he's gonna be 20. So
that's true.
Like he has plenty of time to figure things out in the NFL, and like I think whoever drafts him will have that in mind when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I haven't really gotten to much of his tape yet, so
yeah, I wasn't like overly impressed. I was much more impressed. Again, like I know the sizes are like a little bit different, but they're not like astronomically different. I just preferred watching Estime because of the way he runs. I think he was I wouldn't say much quicker, but quicker than Braylon Allen on film. I mean, the 4.72 doesn't tell you he has a whole lot of speed, but he has a decent quickness, at least on film. And play speed and play quickness is a lot more important to me than the combine. So we'll see. But question for you real quick before we close this out. What did you think of the wild free agency, 2-3 days that we've had?
Oh, it was great. I got to spend my whole work day just refreshing Twitter, not getting any work done. I guess we could just talk about some of the big ones real quick. The Kirk Cousins, Atlanta. I love it.
Stock up for everybody involved.
I love it for both team and player. I think that's going to be a really fun offense. And their offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, came from the Rams, who they run a similar system to what Cousins was doing with Minnesota. I think it'll be a seamless transition. I like that for him. What were some of the Josh Jacobs of the Packers? I love
that too. Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that, and I'm actually waiting for you to say the main one.
What's the main one?
Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles.
Oh yeah. See, I think I'm higher on Jacobs than I am on Barkley. Landing spot. You're like this year in like redraft fantasy or whatever. I think Saquon's gonna have an awesome year. I think he's kind of washed up, to be honest.
Washed up, really?
His like peripheral numbers and like his broken tackle rate and like yards after contact and like that kind of stuff were horrible last year. Like he was breaking tackles at like a bottom 10 rate in the NFL.
Now, do you think some of that could be part of how bad the Giants' offensive line was too? So, say for instance, you got people coming into the backfield instead of one, maybe two, it's like four. Do you think anything has to do with that as well?
Totally, that like could be and probably is part of it. But I don't think he's ever really looked like quite the same player since the ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still a good running back, like absolutely, but he's not the most athletic player on the field anymore.
Yeah, age will do that to you too, and MetLife's field will do that to you too.
Yes.
That is one of the worst places, from my understanding. I've obviously never played at MetLife Stadium. I don't know if you have as well. No, but from my understanding, it's one of the worst places, like field-wise, to play. There's always seems to be some sort of catastrophic injury that happens there. I'm very excited, especially since like the offense that he gets to play in, not only for the offensive line purposes, but the wide receiver purposes. He's not going to face stack boxes like he did in New York. There's going to be a lot more attention to Jalen possibly taking it up the middle than it is to Saquon. So I think that adds a little bit of a different element than he's used to. But I do love the Josh Jacobs signing in Green Bay as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. He's going to look weird in a Packers uniform.
To be honest, Saquon's going to look really weird in an Eagles jersey too.
That's fair. But the change from the silver and black to green and yellow is such a drastic difference. That's going to throw me for a loop with Jacobs.
I also felt like he was going to be a forever Raider as well for some reason.
He did.
Like seems. Yeah. He seems like a Raider.
Like boring type of running back. Like he just kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's not the most exciting player to.
He gets the job done.
But he's just like good player. Like will get you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about Swift to the Bears?
So I thought that was a good move for him, and I thought it was good for the Eagles to maybe take an upgrade at, running back when it comes to Saquon versus Swift. It really depends on what they do at quarterback. Is Justin Fields going to be the quarterback? Is Caleb Williams going to be the quarterback? We don't really know. For pass catching purposes, if it's Fields, he's probably going to take a hit there because Fields doesn't really target the running back at all. So it's interesting. He's probably the best running back in that rotation by a decent amount. I think he's much better than Khalil Herbert. I think he's better than Roschon, although Roschon really never got to show anything in Chicago. And he's, an electric football player. As long as they can get him involved, as long as maybe they could juice up that offensive line, it could be a good move for them.
Yeah. I'm a longtime DeAndre Swift hater.
Just like Will Levis too.
Oh, I feel much stronger about Will Levis. Will Levis was that's probably as low as I'll ever be on a quarterback that gets drafted that high.
Wow. But, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. A different conversation for a different day. But with Swift, I think he's a really good space player. Like and it was perfect with the Eagles. Their offensive line was so good. He has big creases to run through, and in space he's really good. But I don't think he's like a very efficient between the tackles runner or anything. Herbert, I think, is. If that's their plan to use Herbert, and then I guess Roschon is. I don't really get where Roschon fits into the whole thing, just because I thought he was more going to be the pass catcher, and then now you have Swift.
Is Foreman still there?
I doubt it.
He can't be, right? Because I would be just completely confused as to what the hell's happening.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have signed. He would have. I don't think he would have been on a 2-year deal.
No, I think you're probably right. But yeah, I agree. If you can get Swift to the edge or Swift in the second level, he's a difference maker.
Yeah.
Like a Marshawn Lloyd, who we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
What is one more that I'm missing? You know, Calvin Ridley signed today. That's the most recent one.
Yeah,
Big payday.
Way too much money for me. But I will say I like the spot for him in terms of being across from DeAndre Hopkins. I think is really good for him because Hopkins will be the guy who he's the X receiver. He is going to take the big physical corner, and they can move Ridley around, and he'll be able to, like have more space to operate with, as opposed to like how they were. That's how how it was with him. His one really good year in Atlanta with Julio on the other side.
Right.
Then this year or last year on the Jags, especially when Zay Jones was hurt for most of the year, they were running him out as the X on the line of scrimmage, having to face press like on practically every snap, and he struggled. He can't. He's not that type.
Trying to get vertical is not really going to be his game.
Yeah, so I think him with next to opposite of Hopkins is really good. But the money is crazy, and he's going to be like 33 at the end of that contract.
Do you want to hear something pretty funny when it comes to Calvin Ridley getting paid by the Titans real quick? So sure. Eagles initially tried to trade for Calvin Ridley when he was on Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Atlanta kind of advised against it just because of the whole gambling situation that was going on. The Eagles wanted to pursue a wide receiver. They went to Tennessee because they were not going to pay, A.J. Brown the, $100 million that he was looking for. Eagles ended up with A.J. Brown. Titans need a receiver. They now are paying $92 million to 30-year-old Calvin Ridley. How the turntables have turned, or whatever the saying is.
The contract they gave Ridley, it's the same amount of years and $8 million less than what A.J. Brown got.
Right.
It's just a disaster from the Titans.
Yeah. So with the Titans, so they signed Tony Pollard, which I don't know. I have no idea what they're doing. They're a team that should be in complete rebuild, build around Will Levis, build around Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line. But they keep bringing in guys. I don't understand. Calvin Ridley going to be 30. DeAndre Hopkins is over 30, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then 30. Tony Pollard, who is just the meme of Spider-Man pointing at each other with him and Tajay Spears. I think Tajay's better than him, but they're very similar type players. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if you agree, disagree.
I was mostly just mad because I love Tajay so much.
Same.
He's one of my favorite players that I've scouted yet. He's so fun to watch. But yeah, that was confusing. I get and appreciate what the Titans are trying to do with don't really worry about age and just get in some playmakers for your young quarterback. Get good players around him because it's obviously the Panthers did not do a good job of this with Bryce Young, but yeah, them bringing in Thielen, Thielen was the only bright spot that they had, and just doing moves like that you just need somebody around your quarterback just to make them because if they have nothing around them, their confidence will drop, and that you don't want that with a young quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Now you kind of break it down like that. It's kind of put up or shut up time for Will Levis. They didn't use the highest capital on him. An early second is pretty decent, but when it comes to a starting quarterback, normally you see those guys in the.
They traded up for him too.
Yeah, they did, and they tried to trade up into the first. I believe they were trying to get ahead of somebody, but ended up falling anyway. We actually have a question in the chat. I got a question. If possible, Tank Dell or Mark Andrews? So we would need a little bit more context. Is it tight end premium or?
Yeah.
I guess if
premium, I think it's pretty comfortably Mark Andrews.
I agree. But in regular PPR, it's a dynasty.
I would prefer Tank over.
You would prefer Tank in regular PPR?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Tank Dell. I'm not 100% sure what Houston's going to do in that offense right now, but I also think that it's a 2 QB league. I do think that the Ravens also bring in more pass catchers. They have to. So I would prefer Tank Dell over Mark Andrews in non-tight end premium. If it's tight end premium, I'm switching that because, Mark Andrews is going to be a top 5
Yeah.
tight end scorer no matter what. And those extra points are big,
Yeah. And then also, if you're rebuilding, I would definitely trade Andrews for Dell. Because Andrews is not that he's old not for a tight end at least. But I think it's always just best to like rebuild around receivers in general in Dynasty. They're the easiest to trade. They're like their values tend to be a little more insulated
and safer because the tight end, you have guys like David Njoku who's going to flash, for like 5 weeks and then disappear, and your trade value on him is gone. Now that Deshaun Watson's back at quarterback for the Browns, who knows what David Njoku is going to look like? Because when Watson was playing, he was doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
So you're right. The value for wide receivers is much safer. So yeah, I would agree. Tank Dell is probably the right choice in that situation. Last question for you briefly before I let you go, or let us both go. I asked this on Twitter. Bo Nix, Michael Penix, or Will Levis? You rank the 3 of them.
Ooh, so I'm just in this scenario. I'm just adding them to my hypothetical dynasty team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, just real quick. Kyle sent another. Geez, one at
each position.
That was right. I kind of love that. That's crazy.
That's actually, yeah. I kind of agree. That is a very different setup.
Yeah, I like a dynasty league that or a fantasy league that does things differently. Yeah,
I do think I'd still take Tank Dell in that spot.
Yeah, I would too. So yeah, especially that you could just start 1 billion receivers. Then you really should, in a league like that, you should really be building around receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the time comes, like try and acquire like a big time running back to make a push. Yeah, no problem, Kyle. So yeah, Nix, Levis, and Penix. I'd have to do Nix first. Okay. I just like him the most as a player. I think he's a safe bet to go at least in the second round of the draft. He'll have roughly the same capital as Levis. And I just prefer him over Penix. I guess then I would go Levis next because again, I don't like him as a player, but the Titans are committing to him at least for a little bit. They're surrounding him with some good talent. They're working on the offensive line. I like his, although he did just lose his offensive coordinator, which I forgot about. I was going to say I like him in their system. He's a good fit, but I don't know how that's going to change. I don't know who their new offensive coordinator is off the top of my head.
I know they brought in the offensive coordinator from the Bengals to be his head coach, so I know that. I'm not sure. I actually don't know who they brought in.
Oh, sorry. That's what I was getting that all mixed up. Yeah. I was getting that mixed up. They brought in.
Now you got me screwed.
No. Yeah, they brought in the Bengals offensive coordinator as their new head coach. Yes. Right. Yeah. So, but I think he's definitely not a good fit for whatever the Bengals system. But I assume with them bringing him in, that means they're not going to stay with that. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah. So I like the talent they have around him, and if he has a couple of like early good games, his value is going to go up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you could, if I owned him in any league, which I do not, and he had a good couple of weeks, then you could trade him for a nice package. Like you could tier up to a more established quarterback pretty easily. Whereas Penix, like I'd be shocked if he started anywhere this year.
Mm-hmm. Unless he goes to the Broncos, like you have him here.
Yeah, he could even then. Have they signed any quarterback, the Broncos?
No, as far as I can tell, no, they haven't. Or as far as I've seen, they haven't.
Yeah, I don't know what their plan is.
I don't think Sean Payton knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I would also think that, but we'll see. But yeah, I'd probably go Knicks, Levis, Penix.
Yeah, for me, I probably go. So if I didn't, I would go Levis first because I prefer Levis the player. I think he's a little under valued. I think he was kind of in a bad spot last year in Tennessee, one of the worst offensive lines in football, a decreased potential in DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry, both. Treylon Burks on and off the field. Kyle Phillips is not a very good wide receiver in the NFL anyway.
You're not a big Nick Westbrook-Akine fan?
No. I had hope for Treylon Burks, and he's. I think I'm going to be the last person. What's that?
He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
I wasn't big on him, but coming out, but he definitely he's a guy who needed development, and when you get hurt all the time, it just hampers that. It makes it tough.
He is Treylon Burks a series of unfortunate events, to be honest with you. Like, that dude just falls. He's the Joel Embiid of the NFL to me. Like, he falls, and it's just absolutely terrifying because I'm scared. Yeah. But if I were to not take the mock, I prefer Michael Penix just slightly more. Like, if they were to both get second round draft capital and one would go to the Broncos, one to the Raiders, I still think I would prefer Penix. And then Bo Nix, his age is a little bit of a concern for me. Like, 5 years for him in college? And I think
both Nix and Penix are
5 years, but I think Nix is a little older, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They're both 24.
Really? I thought Bo was 25 for some reason. Am I wrong?
I don't believe he is 20. He turned 24 like a month ago.
Okay. So I'm a little wrong on that one. That's my bad. But when I saw them both at the Senior Bowl, Penix looked a lot more comfortable in that environment.
Real quick, you are right. Penix is only 23, but they're only like 2 or 3 months apart.
Okay, so I'm not completely wrong, but a little right, I guess. Yeah. But when I watch them both at the Senior Bowl, and I take a lot of that into a grain of salt when it comes to quarterbacks, just because it's probably the hardest position to play at the Senior Bowl because everybody's brand new and you got to learn different offensive line, different receivers, different running backs, everything. But Penix to me looked a lot more comfortable in that situation than Bo did. Bo struggled pretty much most of the week, and Penix looked solid, looked comfortable. His ball placement looked a lot better than Bo's. But that's just my opinion. I mean, just watching them both in person. Yeah. But we'll have to just see what happens in the draft when it comes to those two, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I do think a Senior Bowl type environment definitely favors a player like Penix over a type of player like Nix, because where I think Nix shines is as a processor and as a quick decision maker to like he's making the fast reads to
smart
take
plays
of to take advantage of just little quick things where a blitz comes and he immediately throws it to somebody right in that area or whatever. Whereas Penix is just he can throw the hell out of it. He's
the playmaker.
Yeah.
He's the baller, as the kids say. You have anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. I think we can end it there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, a great show again. We're going to be doing this every week. We might change things up next week. Maybe we'll do a 1 quarterback. Maybe we'll do no quarterbacks. Maybe we'll do 6 flex spots and one position each. Just really throw everybody off. But thanks everybody for tuning in. And for Toilets and Titles, we are going to end this one, and you guys have a great night.
Yep. Good night.